Hey everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel Tech to See. It's been a while since I've posted a video and I hope you've all been well. In this video we're going to revisit Fusion 360 and how to control our 3D printers with Fusion 360. But unlike last time where I used a pen to simply draw an outline or a trace of an object, and I'll link to that video in the description below, in this video I'm going to attach the pen to the X carriage here. But we're going to actually draw in or color in a solid shape using the pen rather than just an outline. And to do that, we're going to use the 2D pocket feature within Fusion 360. And the pen we're going to use in this video is an Artline 200. It's a felt tip pen with a line width of 0.4 millimeters. To begin, in Fusion 360, I'm going to draw a square on the X and Y plane, starting from the center, with dimensions 200mm by 200mm. This is the size of our build platform. But unlike the previous video where we were just tracing the outline of the shape, we need to make this solid so we can extrude within this shape for the 2D pocket feature. So to do that, we'll click on this square, we'll click the extrude button, and we need to give this some height, and we don't need much, so I'll just make it 0.1 millimeters. So here is a very large, very flat square, which represents our build platform. Now we're ready to import our image file. To do that, I'm just going to click on the top of our square here, and then click Insert, Insert SVG, and I'm going to open an SVG file that I've downloaded from the internet. This is just a picture of a sports car. And there it is down there. And as you can see, it is upside down as well. So I'll move that into position and I'll flip that on the Y-axis. I might make this just a little bit smaller. It doesn't need to be that large. Yeah, that'll do. And just recenter that once more. Press OK and stop sketch. So now we have a picture of a vehicle on top of this very shallow square. The last thing we need to do is actually indent the shape of this vehicle into this square we've just made to allow the 2D pocket feature to draw the shape of this car. To do that, we'll click the extrude button and we're going to choose a shape that we want to extrude. So this shape here is the main outline of this car, so I'll click that. But I also want the wheels to come through, so I'll click on the rear wheel and also the front wheel. Yeah, that'll do. And we need to give it some depth. So we're 0.1 millimeters high now, so we want to go inwards, so it's going to be a minus symbol, but we don't want to go all the way down to 0. We want to leave some material there, otherwise the CAM process won't work. So we'll go down by 0.01 of a millimeter. So now we have on this very shallow square an indent of the shape of this vehicle. Now we're ready to go to the CAM module. To switch to the CAM module, from the top left hand side on the drop down, select CAM. To begin, select Setup from the top left hand side. From the setup options, change the origin to model origin, and you'll see by doing that the XYZ arrows move to the bottom left hand side. So this is going to be position 0, 0, which it is on our 3D printers. Moving across to stock, change the stock offset mode to no additional stock. And as you can see, the 200mm square that we drew earlier is actually going to be our pseudo stock. In this case, it's just the piece of paper. We're not cutting the piece of paper in this example, but it serves the same purpose in this regard. And finally, press OK. Now we're ready to create our 2D pocket, which is going to draw this shape within this square. From the top left hand side, in the 2D drop down, select 2D pocket. From the Tool tab, we need to create our tool, and the tool is just our pen. So to do that, I've created one earlier, but let me just delete this and show you how to do this. Select New Mill Tool. The type is going to be a flat end mill, so this is going to emulate the tip of the felt tip pen that we're using. And the diameter that we're using is 0.4 millimeters. That's pretty much all we have to do. Press OK and OK. We've just created our pen with the correct diameter of 0.4 millimeters. With the cutting feed rate, this is going to be the speed at which the pen is going to move on the piece of paper to draw this shape. Let's increase this to 2400 millimeters per minute, which is 40 millimeters per second. Moving across to the Geometry tab, here is where we're going to select what shape or shapes that we wish to draw with our pen. So let me rearrange here so we can get a better look. So let's first of all select the main shape of the vehicle. Okay, and we'll select the two tires that we also indented earlier within the model. There, so I've selected all three shapes that we indented earlier. Moving across to the next tab called Heights, we're going to change the feed height to 0, the retract height to 0, and the clearance height to 0. So just change all of them to 0. Next, moving across to passes, we want to uncheck the stock to leave. We don't want to leave any stock. We want the pen to go right up to the very edge of the shape. And finally, moving across to the linking tab, we want to uncheck Keep Tool Down. Make sure that your lead and sweep angle is set to 90 degrees. Under the ramp type, we want to change from helix to plunge. So the pen is just going to drop straight down. It's not going to spiral its way down onto the piece of paper. And this ramp clearance height, this is actually the height that the pen is going to lift between each of the areas the pen needs to go, so it doesn't squiggle all over the piece of paper. So by default it's 2.5 millimeters. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And press OK. And there we go. We can see all the travel moves that Fusion 360 is going to send to our 3D printers to be able to draw in the pocket of the shape of this vehicle. So each of these blue lines is a pen move within the shapes that we've chosen. Zoom out a bit, and these yellow areas is where the pen is actually 2.5 millimeters on top of the piece of paper, moving across, and it drops back down. So we can actually simulate how this is going to be drawn by clicking the Simulate button, and then by clicking Play. And we can see how the shape is going to be drawn onto the piece of paper. I can speed this up a bit. I'll move this up a couple of notches. Speed this up a little bit more. So you can see the pen is working its way around the car, and finally it's finished. And looking up at the statistics, Fusion 360 tells me this is going to take 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Now we're ready to export our G-code file. To do that, click on Post Process. Make sure you have the HyperCube CPS file installed within your Fusion 360 program. I've created this HyperCube CPS file. I'll leave the link down below in the description. I'll just have it on my Thingiverse page. You don't need to change any of the default settings here. It'll work straight out of the box. Click on the Post button, give it a name, Sports Car, and save. And here is our G-code file, ready to be plotted or drawn by our 3D printers. So I'm just going to clip an A4 piece of paper to the build platform here. You want to make sure the paper's not going to move throughout the drawing, because that felt tip pen is going to move the page around quite a bit as it slides across. I've also mounted the pen within the pen holder. We just need to home the pen manually first. So I'm going to move the pen to position 0, 0, which is exactly what we did within Fusion 360. And I'm just going to raise the Z-axis just until, and I'll zoom in a bit more there, just until there's approximately 1 millimeter of down pressure from the one-axis pen holder. As you can see, as I'm raising the Z-axis, you can see the pen holder is pushing up. So just 1 millimeter is enough. That's just to ensure that we're going to get enough downward force to draw this image. I've copied the sports car G-code onto the SD card here on the side. So we can browse the menu, select print from SD, and there it is there. Sports car G-code. And it just finished. Says it took 5 minutes and 4 seconds to complete, which is pretty close to what Fusion 360 predicted. Just remove the clips from the piece of paper and we'll have a good look at the quality of the image that's been drawn from Fusion 360. That is pretty good. What I like about this is it doesn't matter how thick or how wide the actual shapes are, it'll draw them. It all comes down to the actual diameter of the pen that you're using, which governs the detail, I guess you could say, of the actual car. And there you have it, using the 2D pocket milling feature within Fusion 360 to draw solid objects with our 3D printers. Of course, it doesn't have to be a pen attached to your 3D printer. It could be, for example, a small engraving tool, so you could engrave onto a hard, flat surface. Or it could even be a hot tip on the end of this, such as a soldering iron, and you could burn a particular shape onto a wooden surface, for example. But starting off with a pen, just to make sure that you understand how something is going to work and how something is going to look beforehand, is a great thing to do. And let's not leave it there. I have these 3 other coloured pens here. I wonder if we can change the tool midway and actually colour in the rest of this car.